Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Am I audible?
Yes. Yes.
I'm feeling extremely happy and honored and grateful to be here. In my own life, I never met Srila Prabhupada, but by meeting wonderful devotees like Jivanand Prabhuji and Sanda Mini Mataji, I can just understand how loving and caring Prabhupada must be. Because these personalities are emanating so much love and care and encouragement and also facilitating. I see I'm a tiny person, but they are trying to encourage, facilitate me in my little steps to serve Prabhupada. So I'm feeling very encouraged and blessed. Thank you very much. Actually, ideally, I should be sitting there and listening. But they asked me to speak something. So
No.
for their
We didn't ask. You can ask.
so I also demand some blessings, or big blessings. I seek blessings, Mother. Speak something for my own purification, so that I can be better version of myself. So today's topic of our discussion will be the better version of yourself. How many of you want to become better version of yourself? Yesterday, when we are taking prasadam, John and Prabhu was telling how people in this world, they always want to have a better version of phone, iPhone 16, iPhone 17, and if you don't have the most latest version, they feel my life is a waste. But actually, to become better version of ourselves, having all the better versions of all the gadgets is actually not going to make us feel better. So we'll little bit discuss from Srimad Bhagavatam. In a way, one of the questions asked by sages of Naimisharanya to Sudha Goswami is, my dear Sudha Goswami, after Krishna departed to the spiritual world, where has Dharma taken shelter? So he explains that after Krishna left, Dharma has taken shelter in Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srimad Bhagavatam can give light age of Kali. So if you study Bhagavatam, we can get actually vision to see ourselves and see the world and progress in life. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militamena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyanta Deshitarine Vancha Kalpadravyasya Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In today's discussion, we'll try to have some activities so that we can not only read Bhagavatam but also try to apply something in our own lives. So, how many of you ever experienced any injustice in your life? Maybe for no fault or little fault of yours, you had to suffer. Is there anyone who has never experienced any injustice in this lifetime? So
I feel like everything's always just. There's never like something that happens unjustly. Like it's my fault if I'm suffering, you know.
There's every karmic seed that we're ever going to plant is going to manifest. It might seem unjust, but that's just because we don't know.
yeah. So there are two ways to look at it. One is intellectual way, philosophical way, and one is how we feel. So yes, I understand. Intellectually, philosophy may think that everything's wonderful, but have you ever felt pain in heart? Have you ever felt maybe what's happening is not appropriate? Maybe, no? So I want you to go from head to heart and just check out anytime in this lifetime. Did you ever felt maybe there was some injustice and there was some pain? Maybe, maybe for no fault of yours, or maybe little fault of yours. Maybe there are disproportionate reaction, you know. So I'm not asking you about just this day, today, or this week, or this year, but I'm asking to reflect upon any time in this lifetime, any memories you have, where in your heart you felt little pained. You felt that maybe, yes, intellectually we understand, maybe philosophy we may understand that, and we may try to console ourselves. But have you ever felt in this lifetime that maybe there has been some injustice to me, and there has been some pain I didn't deserve, or maybe I deserve little pain, but it came too much beyond, it was disproportionate. Okay. Have you ever experienced such a situation in your life in this lifetime? Your heart felt like that. If you have ever felt such experience, raise hand. Okay. Raise hand. Okay. Raise hand in such a way that I can see. Okay, fine. Thank you. So I want all of you to stand up. Okay. And then okay, sit down someone face to face. Okay. Okay. Please, 1 minute. Hare Krishna. Don't sit down if you don't have a partner. Okay. I guess those who have sat down, that means you have some partner, and sit in such a way that you are facing to each other. Okay. Here there are two. Here I think. Okay, three. There are two. There are two. Okay, fine. So we want that each one of you can briefly share that incident where you felt pain, and you have to explain the person so that you have to make other person convince Haribol. So you have to present enough information that other person can feel what injustice experience, and he can feel the pain little bit, you know. So just don't tell. You don't have to elaborate everything, but at least some things which, you know, that other person can really feel that there was some injustice, and he should feel that yes, really there was injustice, you know. So that much at least information you have to tell him, that other person can understand the pain which you went through, the injustice which you felt. Okay. So everybody will get 2 minutes each. First 2 minutes, one person explains to partner. Then after 2 minutes, other person explains, so that both partners get chance to reveal. Okay. Okay, make sure that other partner speaks. Make sure other partner speaks. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Make sure other partner speaks. Make sure other partner speaks. Okay. Okay. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. How many of you were able to share with your partner some situation where there was some kind of injustice in your life? Okay. Let me see how many of you are able to share. Was there anyone who couldn't share? Thomas, Prabhu, you could share?
I'm fine. We'll
Thomas
share
Haripur.
see you later.
Huh?
We'll share later.
No, you share something. Then you'll otherwise you may not relate with the exercise further. Okay? You'll miss the juice. You can just you take 1 minute to share.
Just to share with him, and then you guys are just gonna.
No.
We're just gonna watch.
They will. Yeah. What?
I don't know if this. I'm just dying to tell a qualified pastime. Yes. Let's do that. Let him while he's doing it. Can I tell a brief? Or I can save it for later.
After this exercise, you can tell.
Okay. Remind me.
Okay, yes, I will definitely. So you till 1 minute. Thomas Haribol shares. You have got 1 extra minute to clarify further things. Okay, in case.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So. Okay. Okay. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thomas, you could tell. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. After hearing from your partner, how many of you felt that actually your partner really went through some pain and really experienced some suffering for no fault or little fault of her or his? There was some apparent injustice. How many of you felt that after hearing from other? Raise hands. I want to know who could properly tell that means. You're raising hand? Okay. You're raising hand, na? Okay, fine. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So everybody has done good job. Wonderful. Great. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 17, Punishment and Reward of Kali, text number 22. Rajovacha Dharmam Bravisi Dharmagya Dharmo Sri Visharupadri Yad Adharma Krita Sthanam Suchakasya Pitad Bhavet. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. King Parikshit said, "Oh, you who are in the form of bull, you know the truth of religion, and you are speaking according to principles that the destination intended for the perpetrator of irreligious acts is also intended for one who identifies the perpetrator. You are none other than the personality of religion." So the story goes in first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that Parikshit Maharaj, that Kali has entered his kingdom. So immediately he goes out to search, and he sees a mystical sight. He sees a cow, he sees a bull. Bull's three legs are completely broken, and somehow he's wobbling, not just struggling on one leg. And cow is in a very miserable state. And cow and bull are discussing. And there is one black man with a dress as if he has dressed like a king. He has a sword and other dangerous weapons. And as soon as King Parikshit sees it, he can understand cow is in very miserable state, bull is in very miserable state, and there is some person standing just beside them. So Parikshit Maharaj asks, cow and bull, who are you? And who has caused this terrible misery to you? So then we see, story is very big, I'm cutting it short. The bull starts saying that, my dear Parikshit, you are very intelligent. And you asked a very difficult question for me. You asked what is cause of my suffering, and he said different philosophers give different reason why we are suffering. Some people say we are suffering because of karma. Some people say we are suffering because of some influence of the planet. Some people say we are suffering because of mind. Some people say we are suffering because of different things. And he said it's very difficult to actually identify the cause of suffering. And then he said, so surprisingly, actually the real fact was there was this person, black person, was dressed as a king. It was he who had bitten cow and bull, and they were suffering terribly. But bull did not point out finger to that black man who was Kali personified, and said that he is cause of my suffering. And then this bull said, my dear King Parikshit, you are coming in a great dynasty, you are a great devotee, you are very intelligent. You yourself can find out what is the cause of suffering, and you yourself take appropriate action. So when Parikshit Maharaj heard this, he understood this bull is not ordinary bull. And this is the first sentence he said. King Parikshit said, oh, you who are in form of bull, you know the truth of religion. Most of the people, they don't know dharma properly, they don't know religion properly. But he said, you know the truth of religion. And you are speaking according to the principle. What is the principle? The destination intended for the perpetrator of irreligion. Destination intended for the perpetrator of irreligious acts is also intended for one who identifies the perpetrator. One who is perpetrator and one who identifies the perpetrator, they get same destination. And that is a very subtle religious principle. He said not many people know this. but because you are dharma personified, you know it, and therefore I can understand you are not pointing fingers to, though he is standing just in front, you are not pointing fingers to him. So therefore I understand you are none other than the personality of religion. You are dharma personified. So this is a very deep principle. Perpetrator, and if we identify somebody as a perpetrator to us, we also get the same reaction. Purport Prabhupada is mentioning. Somebody can read loudly.
A devotee conclusion is that no one can become benefactor or mischief monger without the sanction of the Lord, and therefore the devotee does not consider anyone to directly responsible for such action. But in both the cases,
He takes it for granted.
that either benefit or loss is of God sent, and thus it is His grace. In case of benefit, no one will deny that is God sent, but in case of loss or reverse, one become doubtful and how the Lord could be so unkind to his devotee as to put him into great difficulty. Jesus Christ was seemingly put into such great difficulty, being crucified by the ignorant, but he was never angry at the mischief mongers. That is the way a devotee accepts a thing, either favorable or unfavorable, and thus for a devotee, the identifier is as much a sinner as the mischief monger.
So that is the way a devotee accepts a thing, either favorable or unfavorable. And thus, for a devotee, Prabhupada is saying, the identifier is as much a sinner as the mischief monger. What does Prabhupada say? Identifier is as much a sinner as the mischief monger. The devotee tolerates all reverses as God's grace. Maharaj Parikshit observed this, and therefore he could understand that the bull was none other than the personal religion himself. In other words, a devotee has no suffering at all, because so-called suffering is also God's grace for a devotee who sees God in everything. The cow and bull never placed any complaint before the king for being tortured by the personality of Kali, although everyone lodges such complaints before the state authorities. The extraordinary behavior of the bull made the king conclude that the bull was certainly the personality of religion, for no one else could understand the finer intricacies of the codes of religion. Srila Prabhupada ki. So that doesn't mean that if there is some injustice in the society, we can't point at it. If there is some injustice to us, we take it God's hand. But if we see some injustice happening, we can take action. Like Parikshit Maharaj took action. The bull did not say that he is the cause, but immediately Parikshit took sword and he was about to kill. Because Parikshit identified he is the mischief monger. Parikshit identified, but bull did not identify mischief monger. Because mischief or injustice or whatever inappropriate action had happened to him. So a devotee, if something happens to him, he doesn't blame anyone. Yes, he understands that he's just an instrument. He is not the Lord and Master of the world. He's just a tiny instrument in hands of Maya. And Maya is the instrument in hands of Krishna. And unless Krishna sanctions, nothing is going to happen. So a devotee thinks that it is mercy of Krishna. It is arranged by Krishna. So it doesn't identify anybody as a perpetrator. But when we see there is some injustice or some inappropriate things happening, we can take action if we are in the position of whatever. So we see here, Parikshit Maharaj took action immediately. But bull himself did not identified
so important you said it twice.
So for a devotee, the identifier is equally a sinner, like the mischief monger. So we see, if you want to become a better person, we have to understand this fine religious principle. There are two types of consciousness. One type of consciousness is called as victim consciousness. Another type of consciousness is called as victor consciousness. What is victim consciousness?
For me.
Hmm?
Victim con-
Oh, poor me. Yes. Huh?
Everyone else's fault.
Huh?
It's everyone else's fault.
Yeah, everyone's fault, and I am just somehow other. I am being victimized by the other person or that situation. No, what to do? What else? What do you mean by victim consciousness?
Why does God hate me?
Why God hates me? Why that person hates me? Whatever. No person is having victim consciousness. He just blames others or situation for his own suffering. Oh, I'm such a good guy. I did so many things, but just so much. People are not recognizing my good work. Oh, this, and so much injustice happening to me. So to be always in complaining mode, to not admit personal faults and justify one's own action. Is I am such a good person. I did such, but that person took advantage of me. I was so innocent. This, that. To feel helpless to improve one's own situation. What to do? Poor me. Everybody's in this world. This world is unjust. Everybody is selfish. Everybody is like this. What to do? I'm poor. What to do? I'm innocent. I'm somehow I'm the only nice guy, but this world is nasty people. What to do? And I can't do anything. And to be depressed, especially when things do not happen as per one's desire. So just to blame everybody and not to take any responsibility for one's own life and one's own this in life. That is victim consciousness. When we are victim consciousness, we only feel depressed, we feel helpless, we feel very miserable, we feel hopeless. And sometimes people may go to some extents, like they may take to drugs, sometimes they may commit suicide. And one feels victimized, helpless, miserable, as if nothing is now in my hand, no? So why me, all these things. So this victim consciousness really drains one's energy, drains one's enthusiasm. One becomes completely hopeless and helpless and miserable. Opposite to that is victim consciousness. Opposite that is victor consciousness. In victor consciousness, we take responsibility for our lives. We don't just blame others, but we try to find, is there in any way, have I contributed anything in this problem? Okay, other person's fault may be 99%, but have I committed at least 1% fault? And if that, what was my fault? And how I can rectify that? So a victor consciousness, he sees situation as an opportunity to learn and grow in life. What went wrong? What did I do wrong? What can I learn? How can I grow in my life? See, every situation has arrangement of Lord and mercy of Lord for our benefit. Be grateful for service opportunity. So victor consciousness is very empowering consciousness. Do not think that victor consciousness, one doesn't think that he's doing favor to others. Rather understand that others are doing favor by giving you service opportunity and whatever. No, sometimes one thinks that I did so much seva and he did not reciprocate, and I was just taken advantage of. What is this? So, but victor consciousness, he doesn't feel that actually he's doing any favor to anyone. He says that other devotees are doing favor to me. He feels grateful. Okay, whatever one is able to do. So, as long as we are having victim consciousness, there's no possibility to to become better in life and to become more peaceful and happy in life. So to be a better version of oneself, one should give up victim consciousness and develop victor consciousness. So, is it possible to give up victim consciousness and develop victor consciousness? Is it possible? It's our choice. When things happen to us, how we look at it. We can look at it as poor me, as we said, and everybody's taking advantage of me, and so on. And we can feel sorry, we can be depressed, we can be miserable, or we can think, okay, what did I do wrong? Is there anything I could have done better? Is there anything I can learn from that? And take responsibility of one's mistake, admit, become humble, admit one's own faults. Because when we admit one's own fault, actually that is the beginning of real progress. But more we try to justify our right things and try to prove others wrong, life is going to be just messy. So the first principle to become a better version of ourselves is we have to give victim consciousness and develop victor consciousness. And we have to be always in learning mode and grow in every situation in life. So it is how we see at the things. So how many of you think it is possible to transform this victim consciousness to victor consciousness? Possible? To look at the same situation with victor consciousness. Each one of you now to think with, and whatever situation you had previously explained, now you explain in such a way, explain and convince him that actually all that I went through, problem and suffering, is because of my fault. Maybe, and try to admit, try to think deeply. Did you really do anything wrong? Maybe other person also has wrong, fine. But that is of not importance, because that is an area of concern. We don't have much influence over that. But what is in our influence is our own behavior. And if you really honestly think and maybe pray to Krishna, please Krishna, let me know, did I do anything wrong? Maybe nobody in the world knows what wrong I did, but Krishna knows. And if you are sincere, Krishna may tell us also what wrong we did, because of which we ended up in so much of misery. So think of that same situation. Whether was there any mistake of yourself because of which you suffered? Was there any other alternative way you could have acted in that situation by which you would have avoided so much of misery? So you can think about it. And if you are able to think in this with other consciousness, victor consciousness, you can raise hand. Okay. So now you tell partner, and you have to convince partner that there was actually no. Actually, it was my fault. Actually, there was no injustice. Please, and you explain the complete story. Maybe last time you told half story. Now you can tell the real story, the complete story, and convince the partner that there was no fault of yours, no fault of others, but actually I suffered because of my own. Yes. Okay, Hare Krishna. Make sure other partner speaks. Make sure other partner speaks. Okay, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, how many of you are able to share with your partner? How many of you are able to share with your partner? Okay, and I want whether how many of your partners were able to convince you that there was no injustice for them, but they suffered because of their own faults? How many of your partners were able to convince you? Hmm? Raise hands. Okay. Okay.
Forgive me a little bit.
So, thank you very much. So, I want somebody to share how they felt when first time they explain their story to the partner, and how they felt when second time they explain the same story to the partner. Anybody would like to share? Because you told the same story twice. So what was the effect, or what was your experience, or what were your feelings after you first time told first version of story, and what was your experience, what were your feelings when you told second version of same story? Yes.
I just had 3 words, if I may. For the first part, I felt depressed, compressed, and oppressed.
So when first time you said the story, you felt depressed, oppressed, compress.
Yeah.
And when you second time you told the same story, how you felt?
I don't know if I can make it rhyme, but
We are not interested, right?
I
We are
know.
interested in your honest feelings. Okay?
yeah, inspired, connected, and deepened.
Rivo. So just say, this is the effect of our consciousness. When we live our life with victim consciousness, we'll feel depressed, oppressed, and compressed. But if we live our life with victor consciousness, which is what consciousness actually we see all the characters in Srimad Bhagavatam manifest. They show by their own example how to live. Bhagavatam, Bhagavad, all the scriptures are teaching us victor consciousness. And when we live with that consciousness, we can feel inspired,
Inspired,
connected,
and
deepened, uplifted. No, we can feel empowered, and in that way, so when we live with, when we give victim consciousness and develop victor consciousness, we can become ourselves. So this is the first principle we can learn. Okay, now we'll do second exercise. Are you okay? And before we go for second exercise, we'll hear beautiful Prabhupada pastime from Jivanand Prabhuji. Haribo!
An old godbrother of mine, and I mean old, he's as old as I am, Mantra Davida Swami. He went with Gaudiya Math back in early 80s. But wonderful devotee. Had a lot of association with Srila Prabhupada. So we were in Dallas, I think it was 1980, and he's telling me this story. Somebody had complained about being a victim. And he said, let me tell you what happened to me. So he was in Mayapur, doing managing in the early days of Mayapur. And one of the devotees under his, one of the better word, made a big mistake. And so someone pointed out to Srila Prabhupada that he did this crazy thing. I don't remember what it was. It was so long ago. And Prabhupada said, oh, why did you do that? And he said, Panchadavita Swami told me to. And Prabhupada said, tell him to come here. So Panchadavita Swami showed up. Prabhupada said, why did you tell him to do this? He said, oh, Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, silence. So you were relieved from your management position. So you have a new service. And this is, he's from New York. He's a New York Jew. He'd always been on concrete. He'd never been on the ground very much or doing any gardening. So Prabhupada said, so starting tomorrow, you will plow the fields behind the oxen. So you show up tomorrow morning and they'll teach you how to do it. And he was scared. I don't know how to make the bull, the oxen. I don't know how to make him go and stop and go. But he surrendered and he showed up and they taught him how to do it. He's out in the hot sun, day after day. He's plowing and he got to where he could plow straight. And then after a few days, they were planting behind him. After a few more days, sprouts were coming up from the ground, and he thought, wow, this is amazing. Look what I'm doing. And so he's just out in the hot sun wearing a gumshin, cloth around his head, dirty. And here's a devotee coming across the field. This is after a couple of weeks. And the devotee came up to him and he said, Maharaj, Prabhupada wants to see you. He said, oh, I'll take a bath and go right. No. Prabhupada said, no. Can I get? No, now. So he went up to Prabhupada's room, paid his Dandavata obeisances, and Prabhupada all smiles. He's very happy. Looking at him, and he says, so, how do you like your new service? In the beginning, I hated it. But now I'm appreciating. It's not so bad. Prabhupada laughed and he said, oh, very good. So then Prabhupada very seriously said, you have something you'd like to say to me? And he said, yes, Prabhupada. He knew that he could always speak his heart to Prabhupada. Yes, Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, well, speak. He said, but I didn't do what that devotee said I did. Prabhupada said, I knew that. But you that you thought you got away with.
Yes.
Yeah, he didn't become a victim. He just followed his instructions.
Yes. Haribo. Sometimes we have got away with so many things, no? And others may not know. We know. And if Krishna gets us another way, we should know, yes. It's not, okay, it's all right. Yes, anybody else want to share their experience from this exercise? Yes. Mataji's name is Chandrika Sarva. Yes. Yes.
So I felt the first time that I was speaking, it was coming from my false ego to a certain extent, where I was feeling like the pain and the suffering was coming out from my sort of the adrenaline of the ego. The second time I felt like it was coming more from a place of love, which is more Krishna conscious, like looking at it from that angle, where I didn't feel so affected. It was more sort of kind of like using my intelligence to understand how I could have done it differently, or what I could learn from. It's coming more from love rather than from this.
Yes. Sometimes when we have this victim consciousness, we are just connected to our false ego. But when we develop victim, we can be connected to our real self. We can be connected to our real heart and the Lord in the heart. And we can feel so much uplifted. Yes, thank you. Okay, last one, anyone? Yes. You can tell your name and your realizations.
Casey.
Can you spell how it is? K
Kasey.
Kasey. Kasey.
Casey.
Kasey.
Casey.
Kasey.
Yes.
Kasey. Oh, great. Wonderful. Thank you. The most easy name to remember, Kasey. Yes.
One reflection I had is I've noticed a lot of the times that I get into like a victim mindset, really blaming and like frustrated. It's when I'm not like or like taking care of myself. Like anytime that I've like come to the temple in the mornings and I'm like chanting and like I'm filling my body with positive things, I feel like it's a lot easier to come from a more like loving place. That was just one reflection I had, is like if I make sure I'm good and my cup is full, then I can like share that fullness with others.
Yes. Thank you. Wonderful. It's now 7:55. I had two more exercises, but I think time is up. So we can either take question answers, or we can do in 5 minutes on the day one more exercise.
One more exercise.
We can do one more exercise? Okay, fine.
It is okay with you.
Okay. So look within and work without. Look without and work within. So look within yourself and think of one speech or one behavior that really agitates you, disturbs you, irritates you.
Of yourself.
Anybody. especially others. Hmm? Like sometimes we live with others, and then sometimes they speak in some way, or it really irritates. Like somebody will be smashing door, somebody will be coming late, somebody will say something, do something, or something. Some peculiar things are there in others' behavior that really makes you crazy, makes you mad, makes you frustrated. It really disturbs you, irritates you. Hmm? It's really boils you. So if there's something like that, any speech or any behavior of others mm, that irritates you, just note it down. Just one. You don't have to think of many. And if you are able to think of at least one speech or one behavior of others that irritates you or frustrates you, upsets you terribly, raise hand. And this time I'm not going to ask you to share with anybody. Okay? So you can, okay? Okay? Okay. But I'm going to ask you to yourself only, and you have to share with yourself. So all of you can get up, okay? And there is no sharing with anybody, okay? And okay. What you can do is all of you can face towards Lord Chaitanya and keep some distance from Lord Chaitanya, okay? And sit in such a way and stand in such a way that you can move forward or you can move backward, okay? And make sure that you don't step over some valuables or so there should be some space to move forward, there should be some space to move backward, okay? There should be some space to move backward, okay? Okay. So close your eyes and close your eyes. So reflect about one situation where somebody else behaved or spoke in a way that really irritated you or disturbed you. One incident, maybe there may be many incidents, but you just think of one incident, okay? That, and if you are able to remember one specific incident, take one step backward. Huh? Okay. Okay. Now you can think deeply. Have you ever acted in similar, spoken in similar way? Anytime in the history, in your this lifetime, in your conscious lifetime. And if you are able to remember at least one incident in this lifetime where you have acted in same way or behaved in same way or spoken in similar manner, you take one step forward. So it is said that what is there within us disturbs us. What is not there within us cannot disturb us. If something is really irritating us, upsetting us, disturbing us, that means that kind of speech or that kind of behavior is part of us. Okay? If if you are able to relate with this, take one step forward. If you're not able to relate with it, take one step backward. Okay. Thank you very much. Kindly sit down. I'm really amazed and inspired to see great amount of honesty and sincerity in your part. More practically everybody moving. That means you could really connect with this exercise. So this world is somehow we can't see our own faults. So therefore Krishna station, which can help us to see our faults. And when we see our own faults in others, it really agitates us. If there is no fault in us, and we see that fault in others, that will not very much agitate us. But there is fault within us, and same fault we see outside, there is resonance, and that really disturbs us. And in this world, we see when we are agitated, what do people do? When one is agitated, what the person does? When he becomes irritant, agitated, what does he do?
Angry,
Yeah.
Criticize.
Rest.
He may become angry, upset, and he may want other person to change. He said, "You guy, you fool, you! Why don't you speak in this? Why do you always behave in this way? Why don't you change?" After repeated so much telling, still you are committing the same mistake again, and you make me go mad. But the fact is that no matter how much we try to change others, it is very difficult to change. There's one young man, when he was a teenager, he had a great dream. And when he saw the problems in the world, he wanted to make this world a better place to live. So he decided, I'm going to work hard and transform the whole world and make the whole world a wonderful place to live. And he started working with great energy, enthusiasm of a teenager, and practically with great inspiration, with great motivation, with great sincerity, he tried to bring about change in the whole world. And after a decade of his efforts, he realized, what was the realization? It's very difficult to change the whole world. Capacity. Maybe changing whole world is very difficult. Let me try to change at least my country. Let's make America great again.
No.
So he thought that, okay, world is too big for me to change, but at least my country, Mera Bharat Mahan, let me make it great. And he was really very sincerely, with genuine desire to bring out change. He worked very hard, and he spent another decade. And after one decade, what was realization?
Couldn't change the country.
Realization was, my country is really too great for me to change. I have no power to change the country. Then he thought, okay, I cannot change the country. Let me change my state, Arizona key. Jai Maharashtra. So, and then he spent another decade trying to change the country, change the state. And after trying to change the state, what was his realization?
Very difficult.
It is very, very difficult to change the state. So he thought, okay, state is too difficult. At least within this, whatever community people are there, let me try to change. And after decades of efforts to try to change the community people, he came to realization. What was the realization?
Very difficult.
It is very, very, very difficult to change community people. So he thought, okay, changing community people is difficult. Let me at least try to change my family. Haribo! My wife, my children, my all the family members. No? Because at least if I can change them, at least life will be little worthwhile. Otherwise, whole life it has been a failure. So after struggling hard to change his family, by then he was almost an old man. What was the realization? It is next to impossible to change my family, change my wife, change my husband, change my children. Then he thought, in the fag end of his life, he thought, let me at least change myself. Let me at least change myself. Then and then when he started to change himself, he started working sincerely, working hard to change himself. He started seeing, Arey, when I started changing, my wife is a little bit changing. I started saying, Arey, my children are a little bit changing. And then he was amazed. He said, just by a little bit of changes which I'm bringing in me is creating profound impact on my family members in a positive way. And he started lamenting, oh, if I just knew this 50 years back, if instead of changing the whole world, 50 years back, if I had worked to change myself, what would have happened? My family would have changed. And if my family would have changed 50 years back, my community would have changed. And if community would have changed, my state would have changed a little better. And if my state would have changed a little better, what would have happened? Country would have changed. And if country would have changed, the world would have changed a little bit better by now. So all it begins with oneself. Charity begins at home. So sometimes when we see some behavior or speech that disturbs us, irritates us, agitates us, makes us mad, makes us crazy, we have two choices. We can try hard to change other person and other person's behavior and speech. That is one option. And if you try to do that, what will be the consequence of that? Will things go? The choice we have is when we see some speech or behavior that disturbs us, we can just ask, is the speech or behavior part of me? And if you honestly think, you will find out, yes, it is part of us. Resolution that how can I get rid of this behavior? How can I get rid of this speech? And how I can become a better person? And when we start to work hard on ourselves, we'll see that we'll be a better version of ourselves. And later on, when you see same person or any other person behaving in same way or same, you'll see that that will not agitate us. That will not irritate us, because that speech or behavior is no more now part of our being. So Krishna is such a wonderful feedback mechanism. because we cannot see within us. He arranges a situation in such a way that we can see our own faults and rectify and become a better version of ourselves. We see, I'll tell you a story from Srimad Bhagavatam. In 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a story of sometimes we see that in our life there are some difficulties and challenges and we get little upset and morose. But if you read scriptures, we can find lives of people and devotees who have been even more miserable than us. And this is a story told by Krishna himself. Okay, this is from, let me read, 11th canto, 23 chapter 33. And just briefly reading will end, okay, for today. And so this is a story told by Krishna, the Supreme Person Godhead. And told to whom? Uddhava, great friend of his devotee. Krishna is telling, "Oh kind Uddhava, seeing this Brahman Avanti as an old, dirty beggar, rowdy person would dishonor him with many insults. Some of these persons would take away his sannyas danda and some the water pots which he was using as a begging bowl. Some took his deerskin seat, some his chanting beads, and some would steal his torn rag clothing. Displaying these things before him, they would pretend to offer them back, but would then hide them again. They would tell and show you, and then you run, you hide. No, no. So they would really make fun. When he was sitting on the bank of river, about to partake of food that he had collected by his begging, such sinful rascals would come and pass urine on it, and they would dare to spit on it, his head. Can you imagine? Imagine you're taking prasad, somebody comes and does such thing. Can you imagine? But this was his regular life. People were torturing him in so many ways. And then, although he had taken a vow of silence, they would try to make him speak. If he did not speak, they would beat him with sticks, because he had taken Maumrat. Say, Bolo, you rascal, you fool, you. And I try to agitate him so that he can speak. But he would not speak. Then what they would take? Take a stick and beat. Can you imagine? Others would chastise him, saying, "This man is just a thief." And others would bind him up with rope, shouting, "Time up, time up." Can you imagine you're going on street humble, like sannyasi, begging, and people coming and tying you up just like an animal? They would criticize and insult him, saying, "This man is just a hypocrite and a cheat. He makes a business of religion simply because he lost all his wealth and his family threw him out. He's just making a show." And some would ridicule him by saying, "Just see this great leap stage. He's as steadfast as Himalayan mountain. By practice of silence, he strives for his goal with great determination, just like a heron." Heron, Bagula. He's like, he's standing, but his goal is to eat, that fish, something. So he's so-called devotee, so-called sannyasi, but his goal is sense gratification only, Other person would pass foul air upon him, and sometimes others would bind this twice-born Brahman in chains and keep him captive like a pet animal. Imagine if we have to undergo through this suffering, how will you feel? Will it agitate us, irritate us, disturb us? How many of you feel? You may feel agitated, disturbed when somebody deals with you in this way. Okay. So he is undergoing such things. And then the Brahmana understood sufferings from all living beings, from higher source nature, from his body, was unavoidable. So he did not try to work on it. Okay, don't try. Even while being insulted by these low-class men who were trying to effect his downfall, he remains steady in his spiritual duties. He did not give up his chanting just because they were beating him, just they were stealing his bead bag. They were, doing all kinds, but he did not give up his spiritual activities. Fixing his resolution in the mode of goodness, he began to chant the following song. Rather, on this Avanti Brahmana, instead of giving up his responsibilities or his spiritual duties, or instead of becoming discouraged, depressed, morose, instead of feeling depressed, compressed, oppressed, what was his feelings and what was his behavior? It is so exemplary that Krishna is quoting him to Uddhava and telling how one should be a devotee. And which he sings is actually sannyas mantra also. So everybody can repeat. When all these miseries were coming in his life, how he took it up and what was he singing? Vacha Nayam jano me sukha dukkha hetur vatatma graha karma kala mana param karanam amananti samsara chakram parivartayat yat. This Avanti Brahmana, he said, these people are not cause of my happiness and distress. Nahem janoyam. Though so many people were causing him suffering, irritating, disturbing, he said, oh, these people, they are not cause of my suffering. Neither are the demigods. Sometimes we feel, okay, people are causing, or sometimes we think maybe authorities, superior authorities are cause of my misery. But he said, no, even they are not cause of my misery. My own body, he said, oh, I'm not suffering because of my or the planets. Sometimes we see grahas, maybe there is Shani, maybe there is Mangal, there is some inauspicious planets, He said, I'm not suffering because of those planets also. Sometimes some people think, oh, maybe because of my bad karma I'm suffering. He said, no, I'm not suffering because of my karma. And sometimes somebody said that maybe I'm suffering because time is not good, maybe, Mera bhi time aayega kabhi, Every dog has his day. Maybe today is not my day, So therefore I am suffering, So sometimes we may blame the time. But he said, I'm not suffering because of time also. Then he said, why am I suffering? Rather, it is the mind alone that causes happiness and distress and perpetuate the rotation of material life. He's saying, I'm suffering only because of this mind, which is servant of false ego, whose only business is how to protect the false ego. So, we should know that anything is agitating, disturbing, it is because of our crazy mind. Mind will not let us see the truth. Mind will always try to protect our false ego. The fault may be within us, but we will not see that fault. We will see fault outside. But instead of seeing fault outside, when we look without and see there is some fault outside, what we have to do? We have to work within. Oh, this guy is becoming unpunctual and we are getting upset. Means maybe I should become more punctual. You see somebody is telling lies that is really disturbing us. Maybe I have to start becoming more truthful. When we see the problem out there, what we have to do? We have to work here. Look without and work within. And when we are able to work within, then we will see that outside problem is gone. And we have to look within and work without. We have to look within. What is worth doing in life? what is worth, if there is something worth, it is said that in our life, if there's something worth dying for, there is something worth living for. Is there anything in my life worth dying for? Is there anything worth? So we can look in our hand, what is something worth in my life for? And then if we find something, then we can work without. Okay. So coming back to our, we'll just conclude by this last slide. So if you think that the real problem is outside of us, then that thought itself is a problem. If you think that the real problem is outside of us, then that thought itself is a problem. What is within us disturbs us. What is not within us cannot disturb us. So to be better version of oneself, principle 2 is look within and work on oneself without blaming people and situations around. Be the change you want to see in the world. Be proactive, not reactive. Okay, we'll conclude with. So make one resolution in your life that can make you better version of yourself. Make one resolution and we'll take it. And just note it down. Okay. Make one resolution for yourself. Think of something you can do to be better version of yourself. And if you are able to think of something you can do to become better version of yourself, raise hands. Okay. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Omar has some comments or some questions. Yes,
Yeah.
Omar.
So if I have understood it correctly, like the soul or the self is unchanging and it's perfect. So then how do we reconcile the idea of personal growth or making a better version of ourselves if our self is unchanging and like constant and perfect?
So in the conditioned state, we identify ourselves with our body, mind, intelligence, and false ego, which are not real version of ourselves. They are covered version of. They are covering our real self. So becoming better version of ourselves means purifying our mind, purifying our intelligence, and purifying our false ego, and trying to gradually realize our real self as Atma, spirit soul, part and parcel of Krishna, eternal servant of Krishna. Okay. Does that answer your question?
So I guess it's like the changes we make is like trying to become our real self.
Yes, we are trying to realize our real self. This mind is like a mirror. Like you go in front of mirror and mirror is dirty. We can't see our real self. But you clean the mind, we can see our real self. And we say, oh, we are part of Krishna, servant of Krishna. We can happily engage in service of Krishna. Okay? Thank you. Yes.
You think America's
Omar.
not great?
Omar.
You think America's not great?
America is extremely great, and I'm extremely indebted to America. And Prabhupada cried tears of gratitude to America. Prabhupada said, I tried my best to follow, execute instruction as spiritual master in India, and I just failed. He said, when I came to America, it was Americans who came forward and took this message. And because of them, whole world is now taking to spiritual life. So Prabhupada was crying tears of gratitude for Americans. So in that sense, America is, personally I'm also indebted. I'm here, whatever I hear is because of America. Because devotees, American devotees came to India and they actually transformed my lives. Otherwise, I won't be, here today. And I'm just coming just to here, just to repay my debt to America. And I hope I can do something in service of America and Americans as small token of expression of my gratitude to America.
He's not in here. Like, did you sing